Chapter 416, Agenda Part 2. It happened a few years ago, the man from the desert explained. Some abominations had killed most of her feathers, Solark's fake awakened. The borders were overrun by invaders from all the neighboring countries, and she was on the hunt for the one staging the crisis. It was a real mess. The overlord ordered Ruria, my predecessor, to cull the monster tribes during her absence. Ruria was over 700 years old and had a bright purple core. She believed that she was on the verge of another breakthrough. The fabled white core of immortality? The woman from the Empire sniggered along with most of those present. That's a legend. No one has ever achieved it. Yeah, a legend. Like awakened ones, mage towers, dragons, and elves. Yet, he didn't finish the phrase, he simply waved at his peers. Anyway, Ruria was certain that with more life and death battles she could finally evolve. She defied Solark and told her to shove those bullshit orders up her feathery ass, wishing her to enjoy the experience. And here I am. Wait, how did you get a territory without anyone challenging your claim? I'm sure this is the first assembly in decades. Because I didn't claim it, Solark gave it to me. Back then, I was a wandering awakened who had agreed to help her. She gave me Ruria's territory as a reward for my services, not before taking most of Ruria's treasures and books for herself. The man sighed at the memory. Solark had left him the crumbs, yet even those were more than he had ever dreamt about. He couldn't even imagine how powerful the guardian had to be to berate such knowledge to the point of gifting it away. This is unacceptable, an old woman from the kingdom yelled in outrage. How can you bow down like sheep to a bloodthirsty tyrant? Why haven't we killed Solark already? At those words, the hall fell into silence. Raghu looked at the woman like she was insane. Sure, we can beat her, but at what price? How many of us are willing to die in the attempt? Not a single hand was raised. Let's suppose for a moment that we kill Solark, that the other guardians don't decide to avenge their fallen comrade. Then what? Who is willing to assume the duty of a guardian? To prevent the chaos that would ensue after her death from triggering a war that could destroy all of our territories? Under the disgusted gaze of the other awakened, the woman understood the foolishness of her words and lowered her gaze in embarrassment. If I ever hear such nonsense from you again, Zola, I'll think you've become senile and take you out myself. Enough wasting my time. Who's still interested in Klein's territory? Those who already had a territory in another country lowered their hands. They didn't want to become Solark's underlings. Only the wandering awakened remained. Even if they had to pay their due to Solark, it was better than the alternative. Very good. Before proceeding with the spirit duel, the second item on the agenda. Treyas Klein wasn't killed by Solark, but by a 17-year-old ranger. I suppose you have heard about Lith Verhan. Raghu was discomforted noticing that only some of the awakened from the kingdom recognized the name. She distributed pieces of papers with all of his known achievements. He must be an awakened too, said Zola, trying to regain a part of her credibility. Treyas was a lazy idiot, barely 20 years old, but Glamis awakened him when he was still a kid and provided him with his best equipment. A street urchin awakened like Nalir managed to kill Linhos, one of the best mages of the kingdom. I can't believe a ranger still wet behind his ears could defeat Treyas with fake magic. Agreed, Raghu nodded. Fine, but who cares? Said the young woman from the kingdom. He's playing by the rules, pretending to be a genius, and minding his own business. Heck, we should send him a thank you card for getting rid of the Black Star. Many agreed with her. You are all idiots. It's no surprise many of you are stuck at a blue core even after centuries. Raghu stared at them like they were trash. I just told you that a 20-year-old awakened, backed by one of the most powerful men of the desert and with a bright cyan core, has been defeated by someone even younger with no background. How can your answer be, who cares? The revelation amazed most of the younger awakened, while the others were simply interested enough to be relieved of their boredom. Gorgon Empire, in Magic Empress Milia's throne room. After months spent wandering the Garland continent, Scarlet the Scorpicore was fed up with failing at everything and had decided to ask for Ligane's help. The problem was she had no way of contacting him. The rune of his communication amulet had been offline for weeks, forcing her to meet him in person. Luckily, Milia knew about Scarlet and her most notable aliases, so getting an audience with the fabled Magic Empress hadn't been too hard. Good morning, Your Majesty. Thank you for receiving me with such short notice. Scarlet's human form gave her a deep bow. She looked like a woman adventurer in her 30s. Her ashen gold hair had red shades and she wore a gold-rimmed pince-nez on her nose. Unlike the Guardians, she had chosen an inconspicuous human form for her travels. She could barely stand humans as it was. She had no desire to have flocks of admirers pestering her. Any friend of Ligane is also my friend. It's an honor to meet one of the lords of the forest. Milia allowed Scarlet to stand up and shook her hand. I relinquished that title. Now I'm simply the first of my kind. Scarlet didn't like the idea of being called the mother of all Scorpicores. She found it pretentious and it made her feel old. What can I do for you? Milia asked. Thank you, but I just need to talk with the old lizard. Coming here was the right move. He's been very busy of late. Without a mind link, it's impossible to reach him. Milia closed her eyes for a second and a humanoid warped next to her. Scar, you haven't changed at all, Ligane said with a disappointed voice. He had the appearance of a lean albino man, 75 meters, 5 feet 9 inches, with snow-white hair and skin. His eyes were purple with vertical pupils. He was wearing a lab coat over a set of pitch-black clothes. It's nice to see you too, Scarlet replied with an inhuman growl. Since we are both busy, I'll get straight to the point. After Solark saved Balcor, and Linhos's death, I've decided to step up my game and become a guardian. After failing to avenge her comrades, losing her only human friend had been the last straw. Yet no matter what I do, ever since I fought your feathery lady friend in the desert, no world tribulation has occurred. I left my forest because I knew that a quiet life also meant no challenges and no tribulations.